This is the CBS Evening News with Roger Mudd, substituting for vacationing Walter Cronkite. And in Washington, Dan Rather, Fred Graham, Bruce Morton, Phil Jones, Ike Siemens in Miami, Ed Rabel in Huntsville, Texas, Bob Simon in Cyprus, and Richard Threlkeld in Denver, Colorado.
Good evening. The Nixon presidency is virtually being overtaken by events tonight. One of Mr. Nixon's Senate leaders, Griffin of Michigan, and his chief House Judiciary Committee defender, Wiggins of California, both asked for his resignation. The president himself admitted he has lost his impeachment fight in the House, that he has not always given the public the straight story on Watergate, and that he withheld from his lawyers and the House committee certain damaging information. Dan Rather reports.
The president made public 3 transcripts of meetings with his former chief aide, H.R. Bob Haldeman, all June 23, 1972. This was 6 days after the Watergate break-in, 3 days after an earlier discussion of Watergate with Haldeman, the tape of which has been mysteriously erased, and 1 week before John Mitchell was dismissed as presidential campaign manager. This is the first time that contents of these June 23, 1972 tape recordings have been made known outside of the White House. With the new transcripts, the president issued a written statement of his own. In it, he acknowledges that what the transcripts say is, as Mr. Nixon puts it, at variance with what he told the American people on other occasions. In this regard, the president acknowledges that he has known this since last May. Thus, he acknowledges that he has known for 3 months what his own lawyers, his defenders in Congress, and the American people didn't know. Mr. Nixon apologizes for this, expresses deep regret that it happened, says he did not intend for it to happen. Whether this new revised presidential statement becomes the so-called smoking pistol, proving clear-cut guilt, or merely, as the president put it today, a potential problem, Mr. Nixon, in effect, leaves to the United States Senate to decide. For in his new statement, the president concedes that he will be impeached, probably by the House of Representatives, and tried by the Senate. Correspondent Fred Graham will have precise examples of the differences between what the president said before and what the new transcripts show later in this broadcast. In his personal statement accompanying the new transcripts today, the president says, quote, "I recognize that this additional material I am now furnishing may further damage my case, especially because attention will be drawn separately to it rather than to the evidence in its entirety." The president ends his written statement by saying, again, direct quote, "I am firmly convinced that the record in its entirety does not justify the extreme step of impeachment and removal of the president. I trust that as the constitutional process goes forward, this perspective will prevail." End of quotation. CBS News was told tonight by 2 sources who declined to be identified that Chief of White House Staff Alexander Haig has been talking directly with Mississippi's Senator James Eastland, and that Eastland had told Haig that prospects for the president's case in the Senate just now do not look good. The White House indicated that this story was not true in its entirety. Eastland, contacted by CBS News, said, "I never told Haig anything approaching that." Dan Rather, CBS News, the White House.
The June 23, 1972 White House conversation is only one of many ordered released by the Supreme Court, but it is a crucial one, for it occurred so soon after the Watergate break-in. Fred Graham reports now on the so-called presidential variances acknowledged today.
President Nixon's basic defense on Watergate was first laid out in detail in a long statement he issued on May 22, 1973. In that statement, the president said this about his order that the FBI go slow in investigating the Mexican laundering of money found on the Watergate burglars. "I was advised that there was a possibility of CIA involvement in some way. It was certainly not my intent nor my wish that the investigation of the Watergate break-in or of related acts be impeded in any way." In the transcript released today, H.R. Haldeman tells President Nixon just 6 days after Watergate, Haldeman, "Now on the investigation, you know the Democratic break-in thing. We're back in the problem area because the FBI is not under control. The way to handle this now is for us to have Walters call Pat Gray and just say, 'Stay the hell out of this.'" Then Haldeman explained that the problem was that the FBI was tracing some of the money back to the committee to re-elect the president and its chairman, Maurice Stans. Mr. Nixon, "It isn't from the committee, though, from Stans, Haldeman." "Yeah, it is. Directly traceable." Then last April 29th, when Mr. Nixon announced his decision to make public the edited White House transcripts, he said the following.
In these folders that you see over here on my left are more than 1,200 pages of transcripts of private conversations I participated in between September 15, 1972 and April 27 of 1973 with my principal aides and associates with regard to Watergate. As far as what the President personally knew and did with regard to Watergate and the cover-up is concerned, these materials, together with those already made available, will tell it all.
Today, the President admitted that this was untrue. He said he was speaking from memory, which was mistaken, and that as a result, quote, those arguing my case, as well as those passing judgment on the case, did so with information that was incomplete and in some respects erroneous. This was a serious act of omission for which I take full responsibility and which I deeply regret. President Nixon's statement today said that he has no way at this time of being certain that other mistakes in his prior statement will not subsequently come to light. But he said he has no reason to believe that this will happen. Fred Graham, CBS News, Washington.
I'm the mother of 3 very energetic children. They need a lot of attention, and they get it. But I also make it a point to pay attention to myself. So I try to get my rest. I exercise, and I take a Geritol tablet every day to be sure that I get the iron and vitamins that I need.
Geritol, more than twice the iron of any ordinary supplement, and some very important vitamins.
I do a lot for my family. Geritol is one thing I do for myself.
Geritol, every day.
And the band played on.
Do you realize what time it is?
Even Gloria won't have any trouble falling asleep tonight.
Oh, Uncle Ned remembers I sometimes have trouble falling asleep. He's the one who told me about Sominex.
That's right.
And Uncle Ned,
What?
you know Sominex really does help make me drowsy so I can get to sleep.
With a lot less trouble.
Take Sominex tonight.
Sominex. It helps take the trouble out of falling asleep.
Reaction on Capitol Hill to the president's statement that he had withheld information from the Congress was quick and angry. Bruce Morton reports.
I really am not prepared at this moment to make any comment at all.
Are you considering resigning?
The president's lawyers, James St. Clair and J. Fred Buzzart, brought the news first to the House and then the Senate. No commenting reporters' questions, saving their explanations for meetings with what had been the president's hardcore defenders. But the hardcore turned hot and angry as molten steel. 3 who fought for the president on the Judiciary Committee, for instance. Charles Wiggins of California. The president personally agreed to certain acts, the purpose and intent of which were to interfere with the FBI investigation of the Watergate break-in. These facts, standing alone, Wiggins said, are legally sufficient, in my opinion, to sustain at least 1 count against the president of conspiracy to obstruct justice. I have reached the painful conclusion that the President of the United States should resign. Failing that, the President's career must be terminated involuntarily. Delbert Latta of Ohio. We're going to have to do some rethinking. This was evidence that was withheld from us. This is part of an obstruction of justice. Charles Sandman of New Jersey. It certainly changes my vote. This is devastating. A key undecided Republican, Barbara Conable of New York.
It's tough to put your loyalty in someone who abuses it. And I think that's the way many Republicans are going to feel.
Early Senate Republican Whip Griffin of Michigan suggested the president resign.
Where both the national interest and his own interest will best be served by resigning. It's not just his enemies who feel that way. Many of his best friends, and I consider myself one of them, believe now that this would be the most appropriate course. Needless to say, this would be an awesome, very difficult decision for him to reach. But I believe that he will see it that way too.
After learning of the conversations released today, Griffin said he was disappointed that the president's decision to stay seems irrevocable. The impact of today's events will take time to measure, but it seems clear already that President Nixon's fight to avoid impeachment in the House is dead, and his chances to survive a Senate trial are increasingly uncertain. Bruce Morton, CBS News, Washington.
Today's explosive Watergate developments occurred as Vice President Ford was returning from another of his trips around the country. Phil Jones reports.
The Vice President was in New Orleans when the Camp David activity started. Asked at the time if he had any idea what was going on, the Vice President said no, he didn't, but he wished he did. As one aide put it, we are as tuned in as we usually are, but he said, don't forget, the President didn't tell us in advance that he could die of phlebitis when he was in the Mideast. So why would you think he would keep us informed now? The Vice President returned to his office this afternoon, where he has been since. He has not met with the President, according to his press aide, but a few moments ago he did issue the following statement. Says Ford, I have not listened to the tapes, nor have I read the transcripts of the President's conversations with Mr. Haldeman. Without knowing what was said and the context of it, my comments would serve no useful purpose, and I will have none. Indeed, I have come to the conclusion that the public interest is no longer served by my previously expressed belief that on the basis of all the evidence known to me and the American public, the President is not guilty of any impeachable offense under the constitutional definition of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. Mr. Ford continued to say, there are no precedents to guide me on this except my conscience, and I refuse further comment at this time. Phil Jones, CBS News, Washington.
As part of its impeachment evidence, the House Judiciary Committee had 19 White House tapes. Today, other members of the House began listening to those tapes. Connie Chung reports.
About half of the House members trickled into 4 rooms, donned earphones, and for the first time listened to 5 White House tape recordings. 19 conversations will be played and replayed from morning until night all this week. Members emerged with different reactions. Democrat Benjamin Rosenthal said the cover-up comes through, you can sense it. Republican Jack Edwards said he heard nothing to change his position against impeachment. Undecided Democrat David Bowen said he was left with a more sympathetic impression of the president's words. But undecided Republican Frank Horton had a different view.
I'm appalled at the attitude of the people that are talking, the language that's used, the manner in which things are expressed in the presence of the president. To that extent, it's damaging. And I also think that some of the information that's contained in the tapes is very damaging with regard to the question of impeachment.
Tomorrow, the March 21st tape in which the president discussed hush money payments will run repeatedly almost every hour of the day. Connie Chung, CBS News, Washington.
Rumors that the president might resign brought fluctuation to the stock market today. At the end of the day, the Dow Jones Industrials were up almost 8 points. Volume on the New York Stock Exchange was 11.25 million shares. The average price per share was up 23 cents on the New York Exchange, 3 cents on the American.
My dog's better than your dog. My dog's better than yours. My dog's better, so he gets kennel ration. My dog's better than yours.
Kennel ration. It's like the best of meaty and dry dog foods mixed and ready to eat. And it's the only leading canned dog food government inspected for wholesomeness. Check the labels. Government inspected kennel ration.
My dog's better than yours.
If you wear full upper or lower dentures, get Ezo denture cushions. So unlike anything else, they're patented. There's no glue, no paste, no mess. Ezo can be shaped to fit any full dentures. Helps hold them for secure, comfortable, tight fit that won't shift. And look, Ezo can be removed easily, rinsed, and reused again. Finally, Ezo is odorless and tasteless. Ezo, soft, temporary denture cushions, unlike anything else.
In Miami today, part of the roof of a government building collapsed, killing at least 1 person and possibly 2. One report claims 7 are still unaccounted for and may be in the debris. Ike Siemens reports from WTVJ Miami.
Tons of concrete and cars that were parked on the roof of the 49-year-old building came tumbling down into the offices of the Federal Drug Enforcement Administration. Within minutes, rescue units were on the scene pulling out survivors. 11 persons, most of them women, were taken to a local hospital. The first man pulled out was Lindsay Fowler. He had just entered the building to make a delivery. What happened?
I was making a delivery, and the building just crumbled. It just crumbled. Just came down. Wasn't no one. It just came down.
You know how it happened?
No, it just collided. Just come falling. It didn't give no warning whatsoever.
Others were not so lucky. According to a Drug Enforcement Administration spokesman, by late this afternoon, several persons were still inside. Doctors said the chances are slim for their survival. The rescue operation was slowed because a wall that was partially destroyed was in danger of falling. Also, rescuers feared that leaking gasoline from the cars could start a fire or cause an explosion. There were about 80 cars on the roof. The majority of them had been impounded by federal drug agents during narcotics arrests. Miami building inspectors say it will be some time before it is known what caused the collapse. But the Miami fire chief who directed rescue operations offered an explanation. He said the number of cars on the roof simply overloaded the 49-year-old building. Ike Siemens for CBS News, Miami.
A final autopsy report on the 11-day siege at Texas State Prison in Huntsville said today Fred Carrasco, the convict ringleader, died of a single bullet wound in an apparent double suicide with a fellow convict. Also in Huntsville today, funerals were held for the 2 hostages who died in the shootout last weekend. Ed Rabel reports.
The gunfire erupted just after nightfall. Afterwards, officials found the bodies of 2 rebellious inmates and 2 women hostages, teacher Elizabeth Bessida and librarian Julia Stanley. The funeral for Mrs. Stanley was held this morning in this community whose economic existence depends on the prison and other state institutions located here. The dead women's families and the surviving hostages have supported prison officials for how they handled the incident, declining to criticize the violent way the ordeal ended. In his eulogy, the Reverend Carol Pickett made it clear such criticism would be out of place.
This Stanley family is here today to tell you that unfair criticisms and second guessings have no place in this city, in this state, or in this nation. They want you all to know that men must do certain things, and women must do certain things, and people like Judy Stanley must be willing to die if peace and life and joy is to exist in this world.
The minister recounted phone conversations with Mrs. Stanley while she was being held, in which she said she was not afraid to die. A note she wrote to him included the phrase, "Life is preparatory for death." There were tears after the service as surviving hostages who had spent almost 11 days together trapped in the prison library embraced. The nightmare in the prison was over, but the awful task of forgetting has just begun. Ed Rabel, CBS News, Huntsville, Texas.
Tentative contract approval was reached last night between the Bell telephone system and about 700,000 employees, but about 50,000 members of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers don't like the new contract, and they went on strike today. They make phone equipment for Western Electric, a subsidiary of Bell Telephone.
Would you dare dress like this to clean a dirty carpet? Now you can. Here's amazing Woolite Spray and Vacuum Rug Cleaner. Safely cleans carpets without scrubbing. Watch me clean half this filthy carpet. Vacuum, spray Woolite's dirt lifting foam. Without scrubbing, it lifts out dirt. Just vacuum and what a difference. Bright and clean, and I didn't scrub. Woolite Spray and Vacuum, recommended by Mohawk Carpets. Safely cleans carpets without scrubbing.
At the Presbyterian Home, we showed how deep heating rub eases minor arthritic pains to help improve mobility. We used an instrument that measures mobility as grip strength and tested, then applied deep heating rub to warm deep, help relieve minor pain for hours. When tested again, in most cases, grip strength significantly improved.
It certainly did.
Greaseless, stainless, deep heating rub or extra strength lotion from Mentholatum. We make it our business to comfort you.
The United Nations reported serious and heavy fighting on Cyprus today, with the most extensive in the southeastern port city of Famagusta. Word of the fighting came as a UN spokesman announced that Greece and Turkey had reached tentative agreement on ceasefire lines for Cyprus. The agreement, subject to approval by the Greek and Turkish governments, was reached after 2 days of helicopter surveys of the frontline positions. Bob Simon reports on the negotiation efforts.
For 2 days, the Greek major and the Turkish colonel faced each other across a square table and disagreed. A British colonel and a UN observer were there to mediate, but official communiques spoke only of opposing views regarding the ceasefire lines and the role of the United Nations. Finally, they did agree on one thing. They would take a helicopter ride. The idea was to establish exactly where the Turkish forces are right now. The Greeks have been insisting that the Turks return to positions they held when the second ceasefire was declared last Tuesday. The Turks maintain they haven't moved since the ceasefire, and they're not going to give up any ground they now hold. So what you're saying, sir, is that the positions that the Turkish forces now hold are the Turkish positions, and there will be no movement from those positions?
That is Turkish position at the present time.
How do you react to that position, Major?
We have first established the line that the Turkish forces hold today. And then we will see what areas of disagreement there are.
The Turkish colonel helped the Greek major with his seatbelt, but that was just about as far as cooperation went on this trip. It seemed like an easy enough job, a purely factual mission, map out the Turkish lines. But soon after they took off, ostentatiously flying the British flag, they ran into problems. The first stop was a plateau on the mountain range west of Kyrenia. The Turk wasn't very happy about this because it was Greek-held territory. Why are we stopping here, he asked, when we're looking for Turks? He wouldn't get out of the helicopter. The Greek argued that since Greek forces are here, they were learning something about where Turkish forces are not. Once again, it was up to the British colonel to sort things out.
We can't find any Turkish troops, so I'm going to allow him to try and prove his point. If he can prove there are Turkish troops in the area, by flying back here until we find some Turkish troops. Because he claims that there are Turkish troops all the way down here, and we can't find any.
Meanwhile, United Nations troops were taking up positions between Greek and Turkish forces all over the island. But UN spokesmen admit that at this point they can only act as observers, not as a peacekeeping force. Bob Simon, CBS News, Cyprus.
In London today, according to an autopsy report made public, singer Cass Elliot died of a heart attack, not from choking on a ham sandwich. Mama Cass weighed 224 pounds at the time of her death last week. A pathologist told an inquest today one of her heart muscles had turned to fat.
Not even spray and wash can take out rust, dried paint, permanent inks, or dyes. But on today's washable fabrics, it does remove collar soil, ketchup, bacon grease, all of these. Spray and wash gets rid of them, even the toughest, greasy, grimy ones. Just spray, wait 60 seconds, then wash as usual with any detergent, with any bleach, any water temperature. You don't rub or scrub or soak. You use spray and wash to get rid of stains as easily as you get them.
This is Remy Julien, Europe's greatest living stunt driver. In more than 100 films, Remy Julien has done more stunts in Fiats than in any other car. And the Fiat he prefers above all is this one, the Fiat 124. A family car.
The month-old strike of National Football League players had a serious effect on the box office this weekend. It was the first full weekend for exhibition games, 12 of them, and a lot of fans apparently didn't want to pay to see the non-stars in action. Richard Threlkeld reports.
All around the league, attendance was down 250,000 fans. At the Los Angeles Coliseum, the Rams and the Browns drew only 28,000. At the Astrodome, the Houston Oilers and the New York Giants drew only 12,000. And in Denver, where the Broncos played the Jets, 27,000 fans. About 4,000 others had gotten refunds. Instead of Joe Namath and Rich Castor, it was Jones, Knight, and Barzalauskas for the Jets. Instead of Charlie Johnson and Floyd Little for the Broncos, it was Hupnagel, Johanningmeyer, and Humphrey. Our rookies versus their rookies. The game was on TV back in New York, and Eddie Bell, the Jets' veteran receiver, watched with some friends, including ex-Jet John Dockery, now with the Steelers. Both are on strike and did not recognize many of the players.
Eddie, don't you have a roster? You have rosters when you come over here. I have a roster. I don't know. Come on.
All the Bronco celebrities the fans pay their money to see were outside the stadium, marching to a different tune. The veterans hoofing it with their placards, trying to explain to their public what they were doing out of uniform. and a lot of the fans were not ready to listen. Inside the stadium, about the only veterans on the field were the Bronco pom-pom girls. But for the rookies, pulled from obscurity by circumstance, it was a bench warmer's fantasy come suddenly, if temporarily true. With Namath not around, the Jets' starting quarterback was a man with an unforgettable name, John Jones, J.J. Jones, an unknown black quarterback out of Fisk University. He made a few people sit up and take notice. He threw 2 touchdowns to receiver David Knight, and the veterans who were watching were impressed.
J.J. Jones, you're going to see the headlines tomorrow. J.J. Jones and David Knight.
That's right.
Steals the show.
Yeah. Name it, don't bother to report.
Yeah.
We got someone to replace you.
As for the game, it was a statistical nightmare. All told, there were 7 fumbles, 215 yards worth of penalties, and 47 passes incomplete. The final score was Jets 41, Broncos 19. The outcome was obvious by early in the second half, and by the fourth quarter, the paying customers were already deserting the Broncos in droves. And the fan-on-the-street reviews of this opening night were not exactly rave.
What'd you think of the game?
It was kind of a drag. Wish the strike would hurry up and be over.
The question then, how long can it go on like this? How long can the owners afford all those empty seats? And how long can the players afford to stay out? Many veterans are reported anxious to join their teams, and one plan being considered by the Players Association calls for the striking players to return en masse without an agreement, but ready to strike again later in the season. After only one weekend of this sort of thing, you sense the fans' patience is wearing a little thin. Like the man said, it's not whether you win or lose, it's how you play the game. Richard Felkeld, CBS News, Denver.
One interesting solution to slumping box office sales was tried recently by the Philadelphia Bell, a team in the new World Football League. The Bell announced it had a crowd of 64,000 fans for a televised game, but later admitted only 6,000 tickets were sold. The rest were giveaways. Said a Bell official, how would it look if no one was there? That's the news this Monday night. I'm Roger Mudd, CBS News. Good night.
That dollar's shrinking, and denture wearers feel the pinch like everybody else. But here's good news. Orifix, the dependable denture adhesive that holds and keeps holding, now comes in a new economical supersize. You can save money over other leading denture adhesive creams from 19 to 27%. Check prices. You should even save if other brands offer coupons or price specials. Orifix Supersize won't stop inflation, but it could help. Buy new Supersize Orifix, the seal of confidence, and save.
There's not much difference in pain relievers that you can see. But in your bloodstream, the differences are very real. While all 3 leading pain relievers reach an effective level in minutes, in the final analysis, only one of them hits and holds the highest level, Anacin. This difference is the extra pain reliever Anacin provides when you have a headache. Remember, the difference in Anacin is the higher level of pain reliever. And Anacin relieves pain fast.
From CBS News headquarters in New York, this has been the CBS Evening News with Roger Mudd substituting for Walter Cronkite. Share the excitement of World Cup soccer as CBS Sports Spectacular continues the series of exclusive highlights Sunday afternoon here on CBS.
WLAC-TV, Nashville.
Good evening, I'm Bruce Clark.